America, America, please believe me when I tell you this. This is not all men, but I would say it's about 80% of men. If we don't love your mother, we don't really love you, motherfucker.
Oh,
We begin this afternoon with a horrific crime alert out of Pritchard. A man has been arrested for abusing his own toddler by pouring boiling water down the child's throat. This is Eugene Sneed. He was in court this morning. The toddler is in the hospital right now.
okay. Welcome, you guys. So, as you can see, I'm going to be talking about this story along with another story of a mother who had her twin children locked up in her washroom. I'm pretty sure you guys have already heard about that story, but I wanted to start with this one first because this one was the most recent. Um, so before I start, I did want to give a trigger warning. Of course, the story is going to talk about the harming of children, and I know many people can get affected by that. So I did want to provide this trigger warning before continuing. So 23-year-old Eugene Sneed allegedly poured boiling hot water down his daughter's throat, which resulted in severe burns and internal injuries. The child's mother, Natoria Lett, spoke with WALA-TV and provided updates about her daughter's injuries. Royalty, which is the little girl's name, the little girl reportedly has burns covering 19% of her head and she's fighting for her life. Lett, which is the little girl's mother, was reportedly at an event when the incident happened. When she returned, she noticed Royalty's face, head, and shoulder looked messed up. Lett and her and other family members rushed Royalty to University of South Alabama Children and Women's Hospital, where Royalty is undergoing treatment for internal injuries as well as burns to her face. Her lungs are reportedly critical. Royalty's mother told WALA that's how they know it was so done on purpose. They said it was an intentional thing that he did. Now I want to stop right there, you guys, because when I first heard about this, I thought to myself like it had, because a lot of times it's like, oh, it's the stepdad. No, this is the child's father. Okay, the child's father. So a mother thinking that it's okay to leave her child with the father, you know, obviously it wasn't. Now, this is the thing, you get many women who get a lot of slack for not wanting to, have the father around because the father, and it's not all fathers, obviously. Again, it's not all fathers. So please don't go low vibrational on me. I did not say all. I did not say all. I did not say all. But there are many cases where we hear of women who do not trust or want the children around the man. And it's like, women get a lot of pushback for that. But it's like when she did, look what happened. Now, I know you're going to have some people, me included, was like, okay, just looking at him, he looked like a dusty. He's probably a dusty, right? If it looks like a duck, it probably is a duck, right? If it looks and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So, of course, the news outlet, you know how these news outlets are when it comes to black people. They are going to also report their criminal history. So, according to this article, right, and many other news that reported on this particular story, they did hint to him having a criminal record because they kept saying that he was out on bond for another incident that happened concerning domestic violence. And so I was able to find exactly what that domestic violence was. And he was out on bond for a domestic violence situation where he was allegedly shooting at the mother of another of his child. So this is another child. So he's shooting at the mother of another child. And this they're saying happened in 2020. Now, you guys, y'all already know probably where I was going with this and what I was thinking. I'm like, why would a woman get involved with a man who has that on his criminal record, that in particular. So he wasn't shooting at another dude that was trying to inflict harm on him. He was shooting at the mother of another one of his children. So that within itself is a no-go. And I don't know about other women, but personally speaking, if I get wind that a dude that I am dating, seeing, thinking about being in a relationship with, obviously would even have children with, if I get wind that this dude has a case against him for shooting at the mother of his child, I'm out. I'm sayonara. It's bye bye. Because, like, what sense does it make if he would shoot at another woman that he has a baby with? What would you think he would do to you and or your child? And I know it's hard for us to conceive because most of us is like, okay, most people wouldn't hurt their own kids. Lies. We see stories every day across all races, obviously, in different countries, not just here, where people are out here terrorizing their children. Like, for real, in some type of way, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally, all of it is the same. Emotional terrorism on your child can be some of the most harming things that can hurt a child, because it would take a lot of rewiring of the brain to get that out of there. All right. So, again, I'm not saying that this is the fault of the mother, because it is not. I am not saying that in no way. But what I am saying is that we really need to be mindful about what we are putting out to these young women. We need to push, yes, checking that damn criminal record. Yes, I know people get pushed back because people are like, oh, well, that's in the past. That's old. You guys shouldn't hold that against people. This is not the 1970s, 1960s, 50s, 20s, and 30s. This is not those times. We are in a different time. And statistically speaking, if somebody has some crazy on their criminal record, such as abuse, such as child neglect, things like that, murder, anything like that, you are a fool to even get involved. And what really ends up happening is that a lot of times these young girls, because remember, he's 23, so the mother is probably 23, if not younger. And they grow up in the same environments. They go to the same schools. They're around each other growing up in the same neighborhoods, the same areas. And so what ends up happening is, because of that, right, there are a lot of things that are normalized that these young girls think that are normal. They think that certain behaviors are normal, certain responses are normal, and they're not. And they are actually taught to give people another chance because of their daddies, their uncles, their cousins, their brothers, their sons, and so on and so forth. And we got to put a stop to that. Like, it is dangerous out here for women and children, let alone black people. We really, really, really got to start pushing, again, checking these criminal records. A lot of times we know in certain areas, these young girls, they not doing it. I don't know if it's just because they're not taught to do it. They don't know. 9 times out of 10, they're not taught. Another element to it is that, certain things is not like that big of a deal, right? Me personally, and I've always been like this, by the way, but if a man cannot control his anger, meaning if he gets upset, he's screaming and yelling, he's punching holes through the wall, he's throwing stuff, I'm out, and he would never see me again. I've always been like that, because obviously in my mind, I always computed that to, if he's doing that wall like that, eventually that's going to be me he's doing like that, right? Because that's what happens. You have to, and this is the thing, abuse doesn't just happen physically. It's emotional, it's physical, it's, spiritual, it's many other elements to it. And I think that, again, that's what we're seeing. Like, we see, what has happened is that a lot of these young women, they're not taught that. That's not brought to their attention, and we women in the community, women outside of the community, whatever the case may be, all we can do is hope that these women can find our voice. But at the same time, if we see them, if we come by them and they're willing to listen, obviously don't ever get involved with someone who's not willing to listen, because I'm going to tell you right now, there are many people whose lives have been taken because of that. Right? You're the friend, you're the family member, you go over to help this young lady, and the Negro she involved with, who crazy and deranged, he been in offed you. When all she had to do is, girl, get away from him, girl, if you need a place to stay, come over, whatever. So there's a fine line between that, and that's a whole nother video. But I just wanted to lay that out. Again, this is not her fault, obviously, but we do have to do a better job at some kind of way getting to these young women in these communities and in these areas. We cannot leave them behind. Many of them are doing the work to get out of these areas. Many of them are not. And so we just kind of have to figure out how we need to do. And I say we as in a community, not just women, men too, but more so, I would say women. Back in the day when it came to common sense, things were actually, people just could, things were just common sense. But nowadays, and this is across all racial boundaries, I work with people from all racial backgrounds, cultural, diverse backgrounds, and I'm telling you, what's common is no longer common. Common does not even exist anymore. It does not exist. It's been thrown out the window. Okay. And back in the day, I know for me, specifically when I was in school, I remember after every chapter within the textbook, they had a section back there. And that section it was like the critical thinking section, right? And the way my teachers, told me what that was for was that, look, there's no right or wrong answer. We just want to see that you guys are comprehending the material, and that you guys are, able to speak about or form your own, opinion, your own views about what you read in this chapter. Right? So we would usually have to read the chapter, get to the back. There would be like 4 or 5 critical thinking, critical thinking points or whatever, if you will. And you would have to pick like 1 or 2, sometimes 3, and write a paragraph. And then you would turn the paper in. And it really did help you to critically think if you was doing it correctly. Well, nowadays, they don't even have that. Nowadays, they have what they call key points, right? And they may not even have this anymore. I haven't seen a textbook in a while, but they have what is called key points, where when you get past the chapter of the book, they are telling you what the key points are that you should focus in on. They're not, encouraging critical thinking. And the reason why I bring this up is because, again, I already talked about common sense, but even logic, just logically thinking, like getting with somebody like this, logically, is not going to be good. It's just not. And this by no means is the mother's fault. And I'm not blaming the mother, but it's like we really, really, and I get it. These girls who are in these areas, I am very fortunate, where I'm not in those areas. I'm not, I didn't grow up in those areas. I'm very fortunate, and I will never, discount that. But at the same time, I, did have friends and did have people, even family members that grew up in certain areas, and they have a certain mindset. And I'm telling you, it's just, we really have to do a better job at teaching young men and women, but more specifically young women, how to really screen people. Because to me, this was not a hard screen at all. Like, to me, a hard screen would be like if he's love bombing you and everything is picture perfect, and then he gets you pregnant, then you guys get married, and then he starts acting a fool. That's a little bit more difficult. But from the get-go, the criminal record was already there. And I know a lot of times we don't want to check it because our dads, our sons, our uncles, and many people in our families have it, and they were able to come out of their foolishness and live a better life and do well and do good. And again, that can happen. But I'm telling you, statistically, there's a lot of factors that play into that actually happening. A lot. There's discipline, there's determination, there's, getting out of that environment maybe. There's support system. There's so many things that go into that. And if you don't have that, you may not succeed in getting on the right track. So let me let you guys listen to what the mom said.
19% of her head is burnt up, like all this is gone. And my baby just in the hospital fighting for her life.
This story is just going to shock you. Child abuse allegations involving boiling water. Now, I want to warn you, the details are very disturbing.
Snead turned himself in shortly after we broke the story last night, speaking to the child's mother. Victoria Lett says neighbors could hear her baby Royalty screaming from next door.
It was very heartbreaking. Like they heard my baby crying, like screaming and hollering for the longest. That's how you know she was exhausted. She was crying for a long time.
Snead is charged with aggravated child abuse.
So my heart goes out to this young mother and her family and friends, and I do hope and pray that she will seek justice. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So in the next story, we have a mother and her boyfriend, but we're going to put the emphasis on this mother who basically locked her twin 16-year-olds up in her washroom. And, she mistreated them. She didn't feed them. She beat them. She did all kind of things. So here's the story on that.
Twin teenagers who endured horrific living conditions in the Cypress area until they recently escaped. Their mother and her boyfriend are facing charges. And tonight it is through their cases and court documents that we are learning more about the abuse accusations.
Okay, so I'm like, what kind of demonic spirits are running around the community of Black people? Like, what kind of, because first we have the man pouring the water down his child's throat. Then we have this woman locking up her twin children and then beating them, like forcing them to eat bleach. Like, I'm just at awe. I'm just at utter awe with what's going on, and I know that, stories like this, I know, at least for me anyways, stories like this, I used to hear a lot because I worked in that field. For those of you guys who do not know, I worked in the field of therapy, where I was a therapist, and I had the population that I work with were children between the ages of 12 and 19. I work with them in their family. I work with at-risk children. I work with children that had already been put in the system. My job as a therapist was to basically help them, first of all, out the system, right? And once they're out of the system, help them succeed in school, in their education, in life, so on and so forth. And so that's pretty much the foundation that I work for. And I would hear stories like this all the time, and not particularly in my area, but from other people, my peers that were in the same field, social workers, because again, when you're working in that capacity, you're working with social workers. And I can tell you guys, I have seen some of the most horrific things done, both by men and women, but we're going to talk about, because now we're on this mother. And you would think that the motherly nurturing side would kick in. You would think that, it's just hard to conceive that a mother would do such a thing. And she was not just a mother to these two twins. She was a mother to 7. Well, I think all the children that were staying with her, which was 7 in total. She had the 2 twins who she locked up, and then she had some 5 other children. So I don't know. It's not clear if those 5 other children were all hers or if a few of them belonged to her boyfriend. I don't know. But either way, she was a mother in the home of, 7 children. And you would think that, she would just have that protection, that protection sense, that nurturing sense, I don't even have children, but I have that because it's like they're children, they're helpless, they're children. Like children are children. And a lot of things that they do is learned. It's taught. Children start with a blank slate. They don't come out of the womb, you know, doing crazy. It's learned. It's taught. It's a being around certain environments. You know what I'm saying? And so, particularly with this mother, it's like I'm just like, how? Now, I will say this: she was able to get away with it. Actually, let me play the news clip.
Behind the gates of this Cypress subdivision, heartbreak and horror. As 16-year-old twins, a boy and girl, handcuffed, abused, and malnourished, have just made a daring escape from their home. The boy would later tell police he hid the handcuff key in his mouth. Can you please help us? The woman, a neighbor who did, talked to KPRC2's Brandon Walker earlier this week.
She kept shaking and she was like, my mom's kept us locked in the laundry room.
And it sounds like it may have been much worse. From the new court documents, the children said their mom would make them drink, quote, chemicals such as bleach, Lysol, and would spray Easy Off oven cleaner in their mouths if they talked too much. The defendant would also pour bleach on the children, causing their skin to burn, including their genital area. The mother and her boyfriend were arrested in Louisiana. Police say they appeared to be on the run. 5 other children in the family, ages 7 to 14, were found safe in that state. The mom, 40-year-old Zakiah Duncan, had previous and extensive dealings with CPS in Louisiana. CPS in Texas is a wholly separate agency. Didn't and really couldn't have known the peril these kids were in.
When we see CPS and a problem happening across state lines, it's quite unusual that these agencies are going to talk to each other. Even law enforcement, they generally don't talk across state lines. So a case like this, it wouldn't be unusual for Louisiana to not have talked to Texas and vice.
Okay, so you had some people talking about, oh, there was probably mental health issue there with the mother and her boyfriend, and I just don't think so. It could be, I don't know. That part has not come out as of yet. I'm glad that her and that boyfriend are locked up. It's like, what kind of a man though? Like, I don't know if all the children were his. That's neither here nor there, but it's like, what kind of a man lays up in the house with a woman who's doing this? What kind of man allows this, right? What kind of woman? Obviously, we know the kind, right? A nothing, no good, bum ass. And excuse my language, you guys, but I got to go in on this hood rat, dusty, crusty, busted and disgusted woman. Like, how? These are teenagers. 9 times out of 10, the mother she probably didn't like the dad. Let's just be honest here. There are times where the woman does not like the father of the children, so she would mistreat the children. I don't hear too many stories of that, but that's not too far fetched. And I think that she was taking out her violence on the children because she didn't like their father. Now, mind you, this woman got 7 children. I think if they all belong to her, again, I don't know if all 7 of the children belong to her, but I know all of them were staying in that house. But let's say she has 7 children. This woman has 7 children. So I can only imagine, there's no telling, the daddies and how many baby daddies and all this. And again, that's neither here or there. But the point that I'm making is, she probably sitting up somewhere hating life. And the reason why I say that is because this woman is, she's doing this type of stuff to her children. She hates a part of herself. Now, why she chose to do it, I don't know if it's because they're the older children. I don't know if those children, maybe they seen her do some things. I don't know. No one knows. Hopefully we'll find out, to come. But when we hear stuff like, the black community don't like black children. When you hear Corey Holcomb say 80% of black men don't love their children because they don't love the mom and they just kind of do it out of that's what somebody then told him that's what they should do out of obligation is what he said. Makes you wonder. And I'm going to do a whole nother video on what Corey said, because what I see is that nobody's checking this. Right? So it has to be true. Corey Holcomb has a large following. Corey Holcomb, that particular segment actually went viral. It went on, I think I seen it on Shade Room, Neighborhood Talks, or whatever, where they have millions of people and nobody is checking it. No man. There's no men making content about him lying. So we know this is true. And that's frightening. Because that perception of anybody, any group of people, like not liking their children. Wow. That blew my mind. And the fact that nobody is saying that he's lying. Nobody. It's crickets out here. So that means that they agree and that it's true. Or at least the statistics may be true. Right? The 80%. Because if it wasn't true, then a bunch of people, men in particular, would be checking his ass. They would be like, dude, stop lying. That's you. That's how you feel. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I'm going to do a whole separate video on that, so you guys stay tuned. That's all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys got something out of it. Please, I do want to know what your thoughts are, so you can put your thoughts in the comment section. And also tell me what you think, like about the mother, about the dad doing his 1-year-old like that. What do you think about the Black community? Do you think the Black community overall like Black children, love Black children, protect Black children? What are your thoughts? I'm interested to know. Put them down in the comment section. Also, if you are new to the channel, welcome. I do invite you to subscribe and also to comment below as well. Thank you, and you guys have a good day. Bye.